Central Otago is a very special part of the country, renowned for its mountains and big skies, grand enough to inspire poets and musicians. Each year they perform at a festival in the Maniototo known as Bards, Ballads and Bulldust. The pubs light their fires, pour a jug or two, and the poetry and music flows. This year was a bit special because it's been 150 years since gold was discovered in the area, and boy, are they celebrating. So we sent reporter and poet Richard Langston and cameraman Shay Dewey down to have a listen. And they did. They sat back, they took in the scenery, and they filed this report.
Blue Lake, St Bathans, Central Otago. It was formed by what happened here 150 years ago, the Gold Rush. Miners sluicing and digging great holes in the earth, looking for their fortunes. There's evidence all around this landscape of those Gold Rush days, and this weekend they're being celebrated in poetry and in song.
Here's a health to the diggings, buried under winter snow. Wild, unruly places from those days of long ago. We'll toast the Parker brothers.
There were 2,000 miners here in St Bathans in the 1860s and 13 hotels.
The legend tells. But frost lay on the canvas as day dawned crisp and clear.
Naseby, quiet, spooky Naseby. Once an unruly frontier town of digging, hard living and cold, cold winters.
A bitter winter chill hung, frozen in the air. The icy digging soon became...
Phil Garland is a granddaddy of New Zealand folk, a fireside storyteller of the old school, a balladeer of romance and lament, trying to keep the story and a bit of our history alive.
I am a folk singer, but I call myself a singing historian rather more than a folk singer. Folk song's not renowned for being historically accurate anyway, but I try to be as accurate as I possibly can with what I'm talking and singing about.
Because we're standing in a town now that's down to 2 pubs and, you know, a couple of shops from way back.
Yep.
But this place used to have what?
Used to be humming. Farewell to the gold that never I found. Goodbye to the nuggets that's somewhere to bound. A lot of miners died from pneumonia and scurvy as well. So
It was a very hard way to make a living.
well, not many miners did, really. Very few miners made a fortune.
My love's left the station, she's gone to town.
The Bards, Ballads and Bulldust Festival brings to life for a moment those pioneers of long ago, whose fortunes and love often went west. Frontier tales we share with Australia, with its strong tradition of using the ballad to tell of history.
From the gold rush in Australia, the gold miners came to New Zealand. But following on from that, even when we get into the bush poetry field, Henry Lawson is as important to New Zealand as he is to Australia because he influenced writers here. Well, in particular, as far as I'm concerned, Ross McMillan right here in Naseby is one of those. Blue jeans, yes.
There are shearing sheds I shorn that are scattered by the way, and I seem to hear the clatter of the cutters making play, and the laughter of the shearers from the days of long ago, when they called me Jim the Ringer, down a country road I know.
Ross McMillan's lived in Naseby for all of his 82 years. He moved into town once when he was first married, but found it too noisy. His ears are tuned to the land after a lifetime of working on it.
They're riding out in the hills and, you know, working the tractor away out in the paddocks and the nature of the country, it lends itself to poetry, it really does. The white will seem to fall away with every perfect blow, with just half a sheep between us, down a country road I know.
As well as the roads, he celebrates life in the backcountry, where he worked as a musterer.
We used to go out there in those old tin huts and with a cook, with a packer, and live in there for a day or two and shift on to the next hut. And it was all good fun. It brought the musterers closer together, I think, somehow or other, mateship. He came from some small central place. It was our town, I reckon. He was one of the hardy race, for whom the high hills beckon.
Out here, where the high hills do beckon, there's plenty of silence to listen to. But when the musterers and shearers and old-timers did talk, Blue Jeans made sure he was listening.
For men like he, the range is big and bind fast as a tether. At Pizer and the Roaring Meg, we mustered sheep together. And I knew a lot of the old gold miners. Yeah, and when I was young, they used to talk to me. I must have been a good listener. They used to tell me this and that, and it went into my old head a bit. Yeah, they were good people. I'll bend my arm and raise a glass. He's crossed this final river and mustered off through Shepherd's Pass and off the range forever. Last autumn in the lake country, we mustered sheep together. I think I'm a bit of a sad writer, all right, but I'm not actually a sad person, no. But that's right, the stories that come out of the past sort of get to me a bit. Yeah.
There's another poet whose words embody the here and now of this landscape, its emptiness, its grandeur. The poet laureate of the Ida Valley, Brian Turner.
There's room to shout and squeal and scream. There's room to get around uninhibited, unencumbered. There's a sense of relief and release for me. I like the big, big skies, the wonderful skyscapes, the cloudscapes and the landscapes. And sound travels a long way, and one has become extremely alert to more than just human activity. It's not an easy place to live. You know, the land and the climate discomfort sometimes, and it also glorifies.
People here often wondered what would come after the gold. As it turned out, what did come was always there, the landscape. As Brian Turner suggests in one of his poems, all we needed to do was be quiet and pay attention.
Pulburn twilight. Where I come from, the hills are conceived in the late evening's afterglow and grow slowly through the night. And they're there wet and shining in the wondrous mornings. I guess you know there's truth in that, but unless you're alert in the half-light before dark and follow the contours east, west, north and south, mapping the land, how are you to know which are newly born and which were there before?
More people do notice. They come from all over the world these days to take in the scenery at a cyclist pace. Up to 15,000 a year cycle through this landscape. All the more reason to make sure it comes to no further harm.
Well, our principal responsibility as human beings now is to save what remains of what we have, protect and preserve as best we can. I think we need to examine what we mean before we use the word develop or progress. A lot of what's served up as development is actually destructive rather than constructive and protective.
And hear the magpies singing.
Even those who tell of this landscape's past, and those who've worked on it, know the gold was extracted at a cost, one we still live with.
The broom and the gorse that have come from the gold fields, where they brought broom and gorse in for quick wood. There was no wood here. And we've been fighting broom and gorse for years, and you can't get on top of it hardly.
The golden age is past and gone, while seasons come and go. Dame Fortune and the roaring days vanished long ago. The township still bears witness to those days of old, When miners came to Naseby, searching for the gold.
This is Kyburn, where they sluiced the cliffs for gold. A local boy who grew up here, who used to ride horses, became famous for his voice. On the last day of the festival, I went to the local hotel at Danzy's Pass to listen to a voice made even more famous by a Toyota ad.
Welcome to our world. Glad you came on in. Miracles, I guess, still happen now and then. Step into our hearts and leave your cares behind.
John Grinnell, once a household name as John Hore back in the 1960s and 70s. 2 years ago he had a stroke. He couldn't talk or remember or hardly see. So it's something of a miracle that he's back performing.
Lost my voice and memory and things like that, so I'm just on the road to getting back into it again.
And we'll all be waiting here with our arms unfurled.
The main thing is I just don't look too good. I can't see very well. I've lost a lot of sight. But I used to see too much anyway.
Waiting just for you. Welcome to our world.
Yeah, it's come back. The voice has come back, and memory's coming back, because this has been a big memory thing, coming back to the old home territory, and yeah, my memory. You know, people kickstart my memory, and I think it was because I was singing songs on this, on the little go-rounds at the little concerts and that I hadn't sung for 20 or 30, 40 years.
I'm young in this world. I'm so glad I'm still alive.
And there's a richness in those who sing of the past, knowing they too are passing, in a landscape worth singing about.
I know someday I'll fly away on the wings of horses, oh so free. Ooh, oh so free.
John Grinnell, you may know him as John Hore, ending that report by Richard Langston. It was shot by Shay Dewey and edited by Hitendra Patel.